I see that you were born in Gary, Indiana, and then you went to Notre Dame. Did everybody from Indiana want to go to Notre Dame back then? Because I know Alex Karras didn't. He went over to Indiana a little before your time.
No, he went to Iowa,
Iowa, sorry. I knew it was one of those I's.
Yeah.
but he did have a brother, Ted, who went to Indiana. Ted Karras.
Oh, okay, that's right. I was getting
Yeah,
the two
yeah,
Karrases mixed up.
And you
yeah.
had
The two Karras. Actually, there were several. High school. They put it Gary Emerson, and he was quite a few years ahead of me. But he certainly was a legend in the Gary, Hobart, Indiana region.
Did Coach Parsegian recruit you?
He did, yes. But there's an interesting twist to that.
Go ahead.
My high school, Hobart, Indiana, is one of the prestige over time. There was a period where, in an 11-year period, we were in 7 state championship games, and I think won 5 of the 7. And so we've had a reputation, and the cause of that reputation is a man named Russell Deal, Coach Russ Deal, nicknamed Mutt, M-U-T-T, and he was the captain of the Indiana Hoosiers 1945 Rose Bowl team. Then he coached another guy named Don Howell, Howell, who became the head coach after Russ and set all the records for Indiana wins and so on and so forth, Indiana high school football wins. So they're both in the Indiana Hall of Fame, and because of those two rugged warriors, they put Hobart on the football map. And then, ironically, several of Ted Karras' kids played at Hobart, our high school. So
you also had an older brother, Rudy, who was a pretty good football player. He ended up in Indiana and also played some
well, that's right.
linebacker.
And he was for the Bears and the Packers. Yeah, he was the best special teams guy. Anytime I run into Mike Ditka, which of course doesn't happen much anymore unless I go to his restaurant. But when I was playing, Ditka had already gone to the Dallas Cowboys and then had become a coach of their special teams, kickoff punts and so on. And I was a snapper for the Dolphins. So we always had to go out early before the main team to warm up the kickers and snappers and so on. And Ditka would make a point of always coming over to me and saying, "Hey, Cooch, how you doing? How's Rudy? Be sure to give him my regards. I'll tell you what, whenever my kids ask me who's the best kick cover guy they've ever seen, I tell them Rudy Kuechenberg." So I thought that was very nice of Mike, of Iron Mike, to do that. And then let's see. I guess that's it. Oh no, you asked me why does most guys go to Notre Dame. That has a wonderful story to it. In the North-South All-Star game, Christmas Day, 1964, in the Orange Bowl, ironically, where I played all my 15 years, and the North was playing the South in the Orange Bowl, and the coach of the North team was the brand new coach at Notre Dame, Elliott Parsegian. And Rudy Kuechenberg of Indiana University had the game of his life. He was playing linebacker, and he made tons of tackles, and he actually knocked Roger Staubach, the South quarterback, out of the game. And then they were down by 5 points with a couple of minutes left, and threw a pass that Rudy intercepted at about his own 35-yard line, and did a sideline to sideline, broken field run, breaking tackles, and got down to about the 3 or 4 yard line, got hit by 4 guys and carried the entire stack of humanity into the end zone for the winning touchdown. And he was awarded the MVP, naturally. So now you have to go from the locker room level, which is ground level, up to the press box in the elevator to receive his award. And so he gets in, and then the elevator door shuts, and then it opens again, and there's Eric Parsegan, his head coach, who, he didn't really know very well. And Rudy, in his best salesman-like manner, gathered all of his gumption and said, "Coach, I know you probably don't have any scholarships left." Good salesman, right? But just in case you do, I've got a kid brother who's a senior at Hobart High School, not an hour from Notre Dame, and he's not very big, not very fast, but he's got all heart. He's got a hell of a big heart. And so that was it. Then Eric got out and Rudy got his trophy, and sure enough, a few days later, which is, by then the recruiting season is usually pretty well over by that time. But I get a call from Notre Dame asking me to come visit. And as they say, the rest is history. If Rudy Kuechenberg doesn't do that, I go to Indiana University. And we went on to win the national championship in 1966. I was a sophomore starter on the offensive line, and it's been rocking and rolling ever since.
Pretty good story. How does one get
to
be
it's true. That's the best part. Truth is stranger than fiction. Yeah.
How do you get to be started?
What's not true, but flavorable, is that, I was born in Gary, Indiana, Gary Mercy Hospital, the same hospital that Michael Jackson was born at. But he's been wanting my autograph ever since until he died, and then, but anyway.
So can you sing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you do the move?
I can make prisoners sing, I can tell you that.
Can you do the moonwalk?
Yeah, right.
So how do you get to be a starting lineman as a sophomore at Notre Dame?
Well, you put on a lot of weight. I mean, I played in high school. Played both ways, of course, but we had 2 tight ends, and we were a running team, and so I played left tight end on offense, and defensive end on defense, and then only weighed 195 my senior year. I had my full height, 6'2" and change, but only weighed 195. Much like Rudy, also weighed about 190 when he was a senior in high school. But by the time I'd gotten to Notre Dame as a freshman, I was about 210, and freshmen were not eligible to play back then. We didn't even have games back then. But I put on 15 pounds or so, and because I had been lifting weights. And then by sophomore season, I was up to 235. And they came to me and said, "We'd like you to play offensive line, interior, and why don't you start out at tackle?" Which I did, and then we had the first game of that year. There was a senior tackle who got hurt, and then I came in and played the rest of the way on the national championship team.
What was that season like in '66?
Incredible. I could talk to you guys just about that. And let me give you the highlights, I guess. I could build a cogent argument that by a strange quirk of fate, that arguably the best two teams in the history of college football came along the same year, Notre Dame and Michigan State. Michigan State was a defending 1965 national champion. And they had, in the draft, in the 67 draft, after the, of the 66 team, 4 of the first 6 players picked in the entire NFL draft were Spartans. Bubba Smith, Clinton Jones, Gene Washington, the wide receiver, and the linebacker, George Webster. Remember him?
Yes.
I mean, those were 4 bad actors, and they have a lot more too. But so that was a great team. So we didn't have that many first-round picks, but 19 out of our starting 22 players, David and Elliott, played in the NFL for 2-3 years at least. 19 out of 22, plus 5 reserves. Like Bob Belden, our third-string quarterback after Terry Hanratty and Coley O'Brien. Bob never got to play, but he ended up on the Dallas Cowboys for 2-3 years, and so on and on and on. We had, like I say, 19 out of 22 and 5 reserves that made the NFL. So, I don't know of college teams that have ever had 4 of the first 6 picks taken. Do you?
No.
And I don't know of any that have 24 or 25 players make it in the NFL.
I mean, that game against Michigan State, I think, is probably, if not the greatest, one of the greatest games in football history.
Ironically, it was so painful. They dominated the first half. I'm playing right tackle, and Bubba is playing left defensive end. And I don't know if I'm even 18 yet, let's see. I started when I'm Catholic, so I went to school. First grade was 5-year-old, so I graduated at 17. So I was probably 18 years old in October, and then this was November 18th. So I'm 18 years and 2 months old, and I'm going against Bubba Smith, who's a senior and 6'8" and 300 and whatever pounds, and 88,000 screaming maniacs are on their feet with their hands, just kind of like "Don't Shoot" is doing now, the Michael Brown deal. But instead, they're chanting, "Kill, Bubba, kill, kill, Bubba, kill." But being an English minor, I knew immediately that was an incomplete sentence. It didn't have a subject. Who? Kill what? Kill who? So that was the experience of that day. We dominated the second half. What had happened, Bubba actually got to our quarterback, Hanratty, late in the second quarter, like a couple minutes before halftime, but not because of me, but because our All-American center, George Gedicke, who went on to play for 5, 6 years, 7 years with the Broncos, got hurt, broke his ankle. So now our second-string center, a sophomore, Tim Monty, had to be brought in, and so they took Bubba away from defensive end, where he wasn't getting much done anyway, put him over the nose, that made him nose guard, and he just wreaked havoc on Tim Monty and broke Terry Hanratty's ankle, so our quarterback was out of the game. And now we've got Coley O'Brien in there. But we ended up dominating the second half and missed a relatively short field goal, 30 or 35, I forget, yard field goal that we would have won 13-10. But you know what, guys? Ironically, and this is where spirituality comes in, if if either team had won that game 13-10, one side would have been wonderfully happy, and the other side walked with depression.
Well,
But
and
we also wouldn't be talking about that game right now, would we?
No.
right, one of the great
So here
things
it is,
about
50 some years later, and we're talking about arguably the greatest game, certainly the most controversial game in NCAA history. And so there you go. I mean, I'm just now proud to be able to talk about it. Of course, I'm glad that that Bubba didn't get to my quarterback over me anyway.
well, and each side can claim some sort of victory in that they didn't lose.
Well, they can't. I forgot. Thank you for bringing it up. We had an ace in the hole. That was their last game. We had one remaining game. And by the way, that was the day they really criticized Era for going for the tie by not going for a first down on a 4th and 2, at the very end of the game.
Right.
Whereas if we go and they don't make it, they're almost in field goal range already. So instead, he punted, and we ended up missing a short field goal. But he got a lot of criticism for going for the tie, and here we are, 60 years or 55 years later, or whatever, talking about this 10-10 tie. Oh, I'm sorry. Our ace in the hole was we had one game remaining with number 6 USC, the dreaded and hated Trojans, right?
Yep.
So we go out and we got to go out to USC and play them there. But we did with our second string quarterback, without our All-American center, we had one of those. By the way, in the Michigan State game, our All-American, our star running back, Nick Eddy, remember that name?
Yeah, played for the
Eddy.
Lions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he fell off the train. We took a train, the Grand Trunk Railroad, up to East Lansing, and Nick twisted his ankle getting off the plane on the rock and couldn't play. So we played the game without our star running back. And then the second half without our star quarterback and All-American center and so on and so forth. So we were crippled, but we beat USC 51-0.
So was it divine intervention or the luck of the Irish?
51-0 there's no luck in 51-0, and there's I don't think divine intervention could have stopped 51-0.
Did it help going up against Alan Page in practice?
No, I never did.
Yep.
Alan. Yeah, I mean Alan is arguably. Well, not even arguably. Alan Page is inarguably in the top 5 defensive tackles to ever play the game. He was, in the year that I manhandled him, Super Bowl 8, he had just the year before become the only defensive player, not just lineman, but defensive player, period, in the history of the NFL to be named the MVP, the league's MVP. Yeah. Not MVP defense, but MVP period. And I think it's been done since. And I think the Giants.
Lawrence Taylor, I think, did it.
Lawrence Taylor got it, yeah. But so Alan Page was my teammate at Notre Dame, but he played the other end, number 1, so I never really recall going up against him. We had. That was Pete Duranko, Jim Lynch, Kevin Hardy. I mean, we had these aren't all pro players, but they were certainly all Americans, and a lot of them.
At Notre Dame, you didn't go to bowl games then. Would you have liked to, or is that just one of the facts of life you accepted when you went to South Bend?
Yeah, that was one of the facts. I mean, it was not wasn't a big deal. I mean, that just wasn't even under consideration. And since we won the national championship my sophomore year, there's reason to say, well, now what do you do? How do you best that? And the answer is win it again, which we were unable to do. But in terms of bowl games, that we didn't even have the consciousness back then.
What I'm reading about, I mean, I'm 43. Elliott's a lot older than me. I don't understand is why
I'm your age.
Elliott's your age, so you're a young 60-something, young late 60s.
Forever young, yeah.
You got it.
What I don't get is why you quit the Eagles. I mean, isn't it everybody's dream to play in the NFL?
Especially for a team that went 2-12 the previous year.
Exactly. Yeah, and there was a reason for that. I actually, in high school, I should say, I've been blessed to have mentors at every level of sports competition, both baseball. I played more baseball as a kid than I did football. I mean, started in Little League. We were the state champions, and then in, maximum of 12-year-old. Then the next level is what we call Babe Ruth League in Indiana. And that's 15, 13, 14, 15. We won the state championship there and went up to Wisconsin and won that Midwest regional, and then went to the I don't call it the World Series, that's Little League. But anyway, so we had a great baseball tradition, and as well as football. And I could have signed on with the Mets or the White Sox coming out of college.
Why didn't you?
Well, I think my record speaks for itself, does it not?
Well, you're pretty successful. Well, you never know what would have happened if you'd chosen baseball, right?
Well, yeah, there's been a couple of guys that tried to do both, didn't they?
Yeah, you got Bo
Georgia,
Jackson,
the running back. Yeah, Bo Jackson, and actually there was a guy that was able to do it successfully, but not football, basketball, and baseball. Gene Conley, Elliott, remember him?
Yeah, with the Celtics, sure, back in the day.
Yeah.
And Dave DeBusschere also, who
right, pitcher for the White Sox and Lions, I think.
Right.
And and he was a great basketball player for the Pistons, wasn't he? Or no, the Knicks.
For both teams, I think he played for the Pistons and the Knicks. So.
Yeah.
What about Deion Sanders or Bo Jackson?
Yeah, well, we mentioned Bo Jackson briefly, but they did. But did it elevate either any of those players' careers?
No.
Certainly not Bo Jackson. And you pick one and make it work. That's what I see. Has there ever been a superstar in two sports?
No, I can't think of one.
I can't either.
Nah. Going into the NFL draft, did you have an idea where you might be picked or who might pick you?
No, I had no idea. There were, back in those days, the Dallas Cowboys dominated the market for contacting senior college players. I would say that probably half the damn players that were going into the draft thought they were going to get picked by the Cowboys because Tex Schramm and the Cowboys really had their recruiting program down. So they led the league in free agents, including my brother Rudy, who fell for the bait. And he went down there not once, got cut next year. And then he went to play in the Continental League for the Philadelphia Bulldogs, and then got cut from them and went back to Dallas the second year and got cut from them and got picked up, thank God, by the Bears. But Dallas did a great job of making all the senior college football players want to be Cowboys and think they were going to make the Cowboys team. And like I say, they led the league in free agent signings, not necessarily free agent players making their team.
So what was it, Eagles training camp like?
Well, so I started to say that everywhere I've been on championship teams. Little league, high school, college, pro, and the first two levels are baseball and football. Incredible mentors, the deals that I told you about in high school, and then era, of course, at Notre Dame. And so for me to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, who were 2-12 the year before, was, I mean, I didn't get cut. I quit. And did either one of you guys play high school football?
No.
Then you really don't know what two-a-days are like. Double practices in the heat of August and July, and when you lay in your bed at night and you hit the pillow and you try to pinch yourself to not go to sleep, because as soon as you go to sleep, bang, it's time to get up. You got to get up. So you want to be able to stay conscious in your bed for a while. And every night I would ask the Lord, say, Lord, what is the best thing that can happen to me? And the answer would come back, you can win the Super Bowl, or you can win the championship, or you can do this and do that. When I asked on my pillow in Reading, Pennsylvania, Eagles training camp, Lord, why am I doing this? All my friends are out at the beach with their girlfriends, and I'm here in training camp with the Philadelphia Eagles. What's the best thing that can happen to me, Lord? And the voice came back, you can make this dog shit team. So that pretty much sums it up. After that, I went to the coach, Jerry Williams, who was a rookie that year. Poor Jerry. Leonard Toast, by the way, was the owner of the Eagles back then, and he was a Notre Dame guy. So he was a big contributor to Notre Dame, and I thought that might, I don't know what I thought. But anyway, Jerry Williams was a rookie coach, and I went in to coach and said, Coach, I apologize for making you waste a nice draft pick for me, but this is not for me. I always thought the NFL was for me, but if this is what it is, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I quit. And he said, why are you doing this? You've got a future here with us. No, I don't, Coach. I just, my heart's not in it. And he said, okay. He took my playbook. And then I went to the phone booth and called Mom. Said, Mom, this is Bob. Yeah, hey, Bob, what's happened? Did you get cut? Don't worry about it. Your brother got cut. Don't worry. No, nothing to worry. No, Mom, I didn't get cut. But here, talk to your brother Rudy. He's right here. No, Mom, I don't want to talk to Rudy. No, wait. So Rudy gets on the phone, says, hey, Bob, don't worry about it. You got cut, huh? No, not exactly. Well, what do you mean? What the fuck? Did you get cut or did you not get cut? I quit. What you guys have just heard for the last 10 seconds is what I heard for about a minute. And finally he said, you what? You blankety blank. Well, you're not coming home, I'll tell you that. So now I just sat in the phone booth crying. Then I had to go back to Jerry Williams and just say, yeah, I was just kidding, Coach. But I went through the motions and trying to get cut. And finally did get cut on I think it was the last cut. And then got put on waivers and their last waivers are irrevocable. And the Falcons picked me up because of my, college career. And the Falcons were a young team, only, a few years in the league, and they were already, a playoff contender. Plus, I had a couple of Notre Dame ex-teammates that were on the Falcons, and so, but Norm Van Brocklin was the coach then, and he was, I guess he was a great quarterback, but he was a bastard. He was a drunk and lying son of a bitch, and he told me to, at Kuechenberg, well, we like you. You're going to be on our team. We're going to put you on our taxi squad. You can't possibly learn our system by this week, but go ahead, because I had driven from Chicago, from Gary, Hobart, down to Atlanta, 700 miles, and he said, well, go get your family and the kids and bring them, get your wife and kids and bring them down. You're going to be on our cat squad. So I did, drove back to Chicago or Gary. Then I rented a truck and put all my furniture in there and drove back down to Atlanta, only to get to the locker room the next day and have a note there coming, come see the coach. Bring your book. That, by the way, is the death knell,
Yeah.
If they tell you bring the book, it's your history. Then a fucking Van Brocklin, he didn't say much of it. He didn't even do it. Frankly, it was Pat Pepler, his personnel guy or whatever. Pepe Le Pew, I called him. Pat Pepler, little scrawny, bald guy who had the thankless job of having to give people their bad news. And then he tried to send us home without that week's pay, which has happened on a Thursday or a Friday. Thank God another guy who was getting cut was a veteran, and he knew that they owed us a week's pay and a plane ticket. So between the Eagles, the Falcons, and then after that, I said, well, that's it. But that's it. I always thought my dream was pro football, but if this is what it's all about, I don't need it. I've got a great degree from a great university, and I'll just be a regular guy. But then I turn on the television every Sunday, and I'd see my brother, and I'd see all the guys that I played with and against and kicked their ass, and I just said, you know what, I got to try again. I got to try one more time. But you can't lay out of the NFL for a whole year and not and make it. So I signed on with the Chicago Owls of the Continental League. They played in Soldiers Field, which still held 120,000 people back then. The only game that we ever played there was a college all-star game, and I think maybe Army Navy or something every once in a while. It held 120,000 people, and in attendance we didn't have 120 people, not thousands. Basically, it was girlfriends and wives and all that kind of stuff. And inside, it had not been renovated yet, so it was archaic and rats everywhere. And so inside the cinder runway around the stadium, under the stands, which is where you go to get to the locker room, they had pallets of wood stacked with raw hamburger or meat of some type. And I thought, what the hell is that for? And they had explained, well, that's for the cats. Cats? So, what do you want cats for? Well, they eat the rats. So that was my history with the Chicago Owls. And I think I got paid $150 for 2 games. And then the team folded with 5 games left. And they said, okay, well, we can't pay you guys, but if you'll continue to play the rest of the schedule, we'll pay you, get you your money as soon as new stockholder, new management, new ownership comes in. So we did that, and by the way, I'm still waiting for my check. I haven't gotten it yet. So,
It's in the mail.
but therefore, 1969, which that was for the birds. That year was definitely for the birds. The Eagles, the Falcons, and the Owls.
It can only get better, you thought.
That's right. So I did study. I never played guard in college, so but I was in the pros. They wanted me as a guard, so I studied the draft, and I didn't want to go to any team that had drafted a guard, high. I also didn't want to go to any team that had all-star guards. So I boiled it down to Green Bay, believe it or not, after Kramer and Thurston, didn't have a very good line for a while there. And their line coach was from the same school that Alex Karras, we talked about earlier. They're from Gary, Indiana. So I thought, well, I got to go to Green Bay because, they're not very deep with guards there. And the coach is from Gary, and maybe that might help. Then I heard of the Miami Flippers or the Miami Porpoises. Now, what the hell is that team in Miami that's called? I don't know, but they've got Flipper in the fucking end zone jumping out of a pool. So I called down there, and Don Shula had just signed with them. I tell it the other way, though. I always say, yeah, Don and I came to the Dolphins the same year, and fact is, I signed with the Dolphins in March, and word spread throughout the land like wildfire. And when it got to Baltimore, the head coach immediately resigned and came down to Miami to join me. And the rest is history.
There you go. Just for the chance to coach you. Who wouldn't want
that?
Right.
That's right. By the way, I do have to add 2 or 3 of my PPPs, which are personal points of pride, and that is, you know what a tandem is, right? It's a pair, right? A tandem. Yes. And so in the tandems of NFL head coaches and their player, the tandem of Don Shula and Bob Kuechenberg have won more games than any tandem in NFL history. And, as an offensive lineman, we don't keep stats on ourselves. Virtually everybody does. We're probably the only position in sports that doesn't keep statistics, whether it's interceptions or touchdowns or home runs or three-pointers or whatever. They don't measure blocks. Coaches do. But TV doesn't. The media doesn't, right?
No,
so all that matters is, did you win or did you not? Does it go in the left-hand column or not? That's what's important. So the winningest tandem of Don Shula and Bob Kuechenberg is something that I'm very proud of. It's also the winningest Miami Dolphin ever, 151 wins and 51 losses. That's a very good percentage. And there's a couple of other things that obviously 17-0 is what I'm most proud of. I'm also the only NFL player in history to be part of 5 Super Bowl teams with one franchise. So,
well, I saw one statistic that said in 196 games you were called for holding like 15 times, which nowadays you get 15 holding calls, in a season easily.
Yeah, that's right.
How'd you avoid that? Was it technique, or were the refs looking the other way?
No, it was actually called Monty Clark. Monty Clark was my line coach, and he was a rookie line coach. He came to Miami in '70 also. He shouldn't have. He was playing right offensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns in '69, And when Shula decided to come to Miami, he thought his line coach, John Sandusky at Baltimore, would come along with him. But John decided to stay in Baltimore because he thought he'd get the head coaching job. So now all of a sudden it's virtually time for training camp, and Shula has no line coach. That he, I'm sure the Dolphins had a line coach, but nothing that Shula would want to keep.
Yeah.
So Shula had played in Cleveland and knew Blanton Collier, who was then the coach, and he called Blanton and told him of his situation. And Blanton said, well, you know what, Coach Don, I've got Monty Clark here. He's still probably got a year or two left in his playing career, but he wants to go into coaching. I know that. Let me hook you up with him. And that's how Monty Clark came to the Dolphins as a substitute for John Sandusky.
Did
Monty Clark, go ahead.
No, did Monty Clark put that line together, or was it Shula?
Absolutely. No, it was Monty Clark. And in fact, I would go as far as saying the greatest acquisition that's ever happened in Miami Dolphins history was not Don Shula, but actually Monty Clark. Because Monty Clark took 5 vagabonds who all of us had been cut from some other team. Norm Evans, the right tackle, had been let loose by the Houston Oilers in the early days of the NFL. See, the Dolphins were only formed in '66, so we were only 4 years. I mean, that was the 5th year of the Dolphins when we all went down there. And they were, I guess, 3-11 in '69. So we had Norm Evans at right tackle, Larry Little, who'd been let loose by the San Diego Chargers, Jim Langer, who'd been let loose by the Cleveland Browns, me, and then the left tackle was Wayne Moore, who was cut by the 49ers. But Monty Clark used to play before the Cleveland Browns. He played with the 49ers, and so he knew he had spies in Cleveland and spies in San Francisco. And they told him about this Jim Langer. He said, hey, I don't know who the spy was, but he said, we got to cut this kid, but we're going to put him on our cap squad. Well, the last cut of the training camp, is no reclaiming, so you can't go back. And so when they cut Jim Langer, we picked him up. When they cut Wayne Moore, we picked him up. San Francisco tried to sneak him through by putting Solomon Moore on waivers, but Monty's spies told that was Solomon Wayne Moore, who played college basketball. So anyway, all 5 of us were, worthless, and this guy taught us everything. Monty Clark is the greatest teacher that I've ever been associated with in any level of my life. And without Monty Clark, Bob Greasy doesn't do anything. There was a nucleus in Miami. We had Greasy, we had Zonka, Bonacani, Dick Anderson was already there. Somewhat Larry Little was there. But Monty Clark put that line together, and without that line, you have nothing. I mean, what happened to Larry Zonka when he left the great Miami Dolphins line to go to the World Football League?
Not much.
He went to the Memphis Southmen.
Yeah.
Got a couple of $1 million or $1 million or whatever.
Yeah, that was when $1 million was money.
Yeah, it was real money. They put the money on the table literally the night before and said it'll be gone by sunrise. I don't blame him. But when he went to Memphis, he sat the bench. They had Willie Spencer was the guy's name, played fullback, and did a lot better than Larry Zonka. See, Zonka, if Larry Zonka didn't have the line in front of him, he didn't have Larry Little and Jim Langer and Bob Kuechenberg in front of him, he's not going to do anything. But he can't get the first 2 yards. But if we get him 2 yards and momentum, he'll turn 2 yards, or more specifically, precisely, 3 yards is a loss. We consider 3 yards or 2 yards or 1 or nothing as a negative. But 4 yards or more is a plus. The most important down in football is not third down, not when you play like the Dolphins did. In our world, first down was important. Give me 4 yards on first down, and I'll beat your ass all day long. And that's what we did. Kept our defense off the field. A lot of games we had the ball for 38, 39, 40 minutes out of 60. And when Larry went to the Memphis Southmen, this Willie Spencer, who could hit the hole quicker. He could get to it quicker. And then when the World Football League folded, Larry went to the New York Giants. Remember that?
Yep.
And the only thing noteworthy out of Larry and the Giants, they weren't very good, was when he and Joe Pisarcik, his quarterback, who collaborated on the infamous fumble that went 97 yards the wrong way to lose a game. You do remember that, right?
Yes.
So my point is that Larry Zonka was nothing without his line. But once we got him the first couple of yards, he was the best that I've ever seen. Well, I'll take that back. I think maybe Earl Campbell. But anyway, he was wonderful at turning 2 yards of momentum into 4 yards or 5 yards or 6 yards. Never 20, never like that. But it was virtually impossible to stop Zonka with his momentum that his line got him to anything less than 4 yards.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, your defense is on the field all day long, and the Dolphins just eat you up. All because of Monty Clark.
Yeah. And then when the defense concentrated on Zonka, you had guys like Mercury Morris who could get you the 50, 60, 70 yards at one handoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim Kick. I mean,
right.
Let's be thorough here. That position was held by Jim Kick in 1970 and 71, and then Mercury Morris was sitting the bench and not liking it. No one does if you're worth anything.
And Mercury's not one to talk. He's very quiet.
Exactly. Yeah, right. So you can imagine, but he kept bitching, and finally in 72, they split that. First down, typically it would be Mercury, but in passing situations, no halfback in football was as good or better than Jim Kick coming out the backfield to catch that little halfback weak side pass. And then also a good short yardage runner. Kick was also a good blocker, which Mercury was not. Zonka was not, believe it or not. Zonka, as long as he had the football under his arm, he'd give you the bone. He'd knock the dog shit out of you. But if he was having to block for Mercury or his buddy, Jim Kick, no way. He was a wimp.
I heard that from several people that the only person who could stop Paul Warfield was Don Shula.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, obviously, he only caught 29 passes in our perfect season, and the reason for that is Paul Warfield, by the way, here's a good quote, is the finest football player, best football player I've ever been in a huddle with at any level. Paul was a Big Ten broad jump champion. If he chose to go to the Olympics as a broad jumper, he would have won that. Paul Warfield was unbelievable. And like you say, the only one that could stop him was Don Shula. But obviously, you flanked Paul out on the left, sideline, and not one player, but two players. You got to put a strong safety on them, and maybe the free safety or whoever. I don't know. But so now you've got him and two of the enemy out there. That means we have 10 in here, and you only have 9. And we have Langer, Little, and Kuechenberg and Zonka. How in the fuck are you going to stop that? You aren't.
No. Warfield struck me as a guy who didn't run as much as he just sort of floated down the field. He was so smooth.
He was. His pirouette against the Raiders is, I don't know. I mean, you don't want to use too many superlatives. But he caught a pass against the Raiders on I think it was Monday Night Football in the Orange Bowl, and just did a pirouette. I mean, there's no other way of he was so graceful, just unbelievable. And he'd also knock your dick off. He'd block back. Unlike a lot of these, almost all the receivers nowadays, they won't block for each other. Warfield would knock your dick loose. And we had Howard Twilley on the other side. Obviously not nearly the talent of Warfield, but a great blocker and never dropped a pass. He had better hands than Paul. I mean, Howard Twilley, if you got the ball, if he could touch the ball, he had a completion.
Yeah.
And so there you go. I mean, it was a team of. How are you gonna stop everybody?
Yeah, and Twilley was a guy they would send over the middle too, and
sure. Yeah,
he didn't seem to mind that at all.
Absolutely not. No, he'd caught the first touchdown in Super Bowl VII, the undefeated team. But I mean, that's just one. He was here. I think his first year with the Dolphins was 66 or 67. He may have been an original Dolphin. He was definitely here before Shula got here. But he would knock your dick loose, and that's why we were a running team. And the last time the Dolphins have won a Super Bowl, the quarterback threw 7 passes and completed 6, maybe 5. Greasy was 6 for 7 or 5 for 7 against Minneapolis or against Minnesota.
Interesting how the game has changed, isn't it? That number of passes isn't even a quarter's worth nowadays.
Now I can give you a good story about the preparation. What really turned Super Bowl VIII into a rout, and just like this coming Sunday, we here in Miami are going to be honoring the real most valuable player from Super Bowl VII. Record history shows Jake Scott won the award, right?
Right.
He got the trophy. 2 interceptions. And Jake, don't want to take it away from him. He's a great player, riverboat gambler, smart, tough guy. Love to have him on your team, love to go drink with him, and had a great game. But Manny Fernandez had 17 tackles in the game, most of them unassisted. I mean, he was in the backfield on that quarterback, the Redskins quarterback, not Sonny Jurgensen. Sonny sat the bench, the other guy, but played a lot of ball for the Redskins. Anyway, Manny Fernandez was the real MVP of that game, but they don't give it award to linemen, do they?
No.
They give it to safeties or quarterbacks or running backs or receivers or whatever. And so they gave it to Jake Scott. Well, this Sunday, Manny's going to be honored by being put up in the Wall of Honor here in Miami, and I can't wait to be there to share in his magic day. But the same thing happened a year later in Super Bowl VIII. Larry Zonka was named the most valuable player of that Super Bowl because he rushed for a then record 145 yards. the real MVP of that Super Bowl is the guy you're talking to right now. And here's how it happened. Alan Page, I've already told you, that was his conversation, right?
Right.
Of the year that he had being named the MVP, only time in history. Okay, well, he, to be named that, I mean, that means he was fucking eating people alive. And he lined up in a left-handed stance, and which means his first step is with his left leg, and that's right towards the quarterback. So it's easier for him to be extremely quick with that inside move than it would be for a right-handed stance. Correct?
You're right.
You follow okay?
Yes.
No, I'm left. But anyway, so we knew that. But I studied. I mean, I did it anyway. That's what I did. That's how I made my my career. I probably studied more film than anybody except possibly Greasy, who took film home. But so now we've got 2 weeks to prepare for the Vikings, and I've got 2 weeks to prepare for Alan Page. So I start. I would after we lifted weights after practice, everybody else would go home. And I would sneak into the coach's locker room and steal a couple of beers out of the refrigerator, wrap them in a towel, and then come back in my film room and watch Alan Page or Harvey Martin or whoever my opponent was coming up. So I began to notice something about Alan Page. What is it that enables him to go inside so quickly? And you can't block him by the book. You can't zone block him. A lot of our pass plays or run plays, frankly, called for a zone block, which means, in this case, Langer and me would double team Alan Page and the middle linebacker. Those are our two responsibilities. So if the Alan goes to the inside, you're supposed to hand him off to the center and then take the linebacker, or vice versa, all that stuff. Well, that's what the book called for. You know, block it by the book. Well, Alan Page was eating the fucking book, obviously. I went to Monty Clark after studying him intensely, and I said, Monty, I think I've got something. When I talked to Monty, I showed him, look at his inside foot. A normal stance, guys, is when your left toe is at the same level as your right instep, right? Halfway through your right foot.
Okay.
Or at the worst, at the extreme, your left toe would be parallel to your right heel. That would be normal. Well, when Alan Page was going to go inside, his inside foot was deeper than the heel. It was deeper by about another half of the other foot. And so if you looked real closely on film, you could see that, barely. And then maybe you might be imagining things because you're hoping, oh my God, there's got to be a reason. Why is he able to eat the book like this? Well, I told Monty Clark that, and I said, Monty, here's what I want to do. You see that? You see this? You see that? He said, yeah, Cooch, I think I agree with you. I think I see what you're talking about, but you got to block him by the book. I said, Monty, he eats the fucking book. Look what he does to the book. What do we have to lose? He said, well, I'll go talk to the boss, see what he says. Next day, Monty comes back, says, Cooch, talk to the boss. And he not only said no, he said, fuck no. Block it by the goddamn book. So, okay, all right. Now, we received the opening kickoff, and first couple of plays would look normal. so we blocked like we were supposed to. And I think it was 3rd and 7, or 3rd and 5, or 3rd and 4, something like that. And sure enough, there it is. I saw it. I said, oh, God. Oh, God. And I blocked it by the book, and Langer never had a chance. I mean, Langer's got to snap the ball, and by the time the ball is hitting Langer in the ass, fucking Page has already passed him. He just about took the handoff from Greasy instead of Jim Kick taking it. Nailed Kick. There was a fumble that we recovered, but that was it. I just fucking lost it. So, and I just turned to the sideline and went to Shula, and I did this, gave him the gesture of up years, with your right arm. You can hear what I'm doing, right?
Yes.
Fuck you, Shula. Fuck you, Shula. And that's it. I lost it. I saw red and blocked it my way the rest of the day. Alan Page never touched another ball carrier all day long. Was so frustrated. I mean, if I was supposed to go somewhere else on a play, I wouldn't go. I'd just stay with Page. And he got so frustrated, never touched the ball carrier, any ball carrier, the rest of the day. With about a minute and a half left in the game, he was so frustrated that we had a sweep where Mercury carried the ball to the left near the sideline. And instead of chasing Mercury, he went over and cold-cocked Greasy, who was just standing there. Well, I saw that, of course, so I cold-cocked Page. And we got into it, and he got ejected. So Alan Page, in one fell swoop, went from being the only NFL defensive player to ever win the MVP award to being the only NFL player in the history of the Super Bowl to be ejected.
Did he ever figure out how you stopped him? Did he ever know your little trick or no?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, Alan Page is fine man. He's a Supreme Court justice. You know that, right?
Yes, in Minnesota.
He's no Michael Brown. I mean, this guy's a for real guy. And credit to his race, to Notre Dame, to everything. But no, I don't know. To my knowledge, we never discussed it.
Did Coach Shula give you credit?
Oh yeah. With a couple of minutes left in the game, when you've got a game made and you want to honor some of the players, he called Zonka out, and so everybody give up applause, and he gives them a big hug on the sideline, and then he called me up, did the same thing with me. So that was his way of honoring what I had just done, in spite of his decision. And I said, I didn't really mean fuck you, Shula.
And he probably said, yeah, you did.
Yeah, you're right. You did. And I said, yeah, I know. I did.
What's it going to take to get you in? Yeah. What's it going to take to get you into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
That I don't know.
Did you? I've read some accounts that one of the problems is you play too long, so that the guys who are on the offensive line with you, and
not only the offensive line. You're absolutely right. I mean, all
those guys got in, and they, how can you add another Dolphin? It's sort of like, how can you add another Packer? How can you add another Steeler? Sort of thing.
That's the you hear that Jerry Kramer suffers from the same thing, and Greenwood, Elsie Greenwood.
Elsie, yeah.
But it's true. I mean, I played 15 years. Jim Langer played 9 years. So you got to be out of the game 5 years before you're even eligible. So Langer, who went in to the Hall his first year of eligibility, he and Paul Warfield also went in first year of eligibility. They went in the same year. I think that would have been '89 or something. And so the biggest, they were in the Hall of Fame, and I'm still playing. And so the biggest rap that I hear is that we don't want another. We can't put the whole fucking team in the Hall of Fame. I mean, how many Ed Pope? How many? Every year Ed Pope would say, "Oh, and this is the greatest Dolphin ever," and they finally said, "Ed, we've heard this too many times. Shut the fuck up." But yeah, I mean, too many Dolphins. You've got Little and Zonka and Greasy and Warfield and Langer and Onakani. So, probably forgetting. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, too many Dolphins from that team.
What I find amazing about Coach Shula is how he changed his whole style. You went from a running team, and all of a sudden you get another number 13, Dan Marino, coming in, and you become a passing team.
To what success?
No, you're right. You made the Super Bowl in Marino's second year in the 85 Super Bowl, I believe, and never went there again.
Right. Yeah. And they made one Super Bowl and didn't even come close to any others. And that's because, let's see, what are we doing here? This is a taped radio program, right? It's going to play in Chicago.
Yes.
All over the world.
Well, yeah, you got to be careful. I don't want to be overly critical, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion, especially me.
Exactly.
But as Don Shula was the youngest rookie coach in the history of football. He was head coach of the Colts at age 33. I think that's still probably the record. Obviously, he's the winningest coach at 347. But as he got older, that fire down below, that burning drive that he had in the early years with us, he didn't, now instead of being, I don't know how old, if he was coach 33, I don't know how old he was in 1970, but, maybe he was 40 some or something. But by the time Marino got there, 82, he no longer had quite that drive, that iron jaw. I mean, his nickname was the Jaw. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
With those crossed arms and that huge jaw. Mm-hmm. I mean, he would take on all takers, and unless you were crazy, you wouldn't respond. I mean, you do what he said. Do what the man says, and good things happen. But by that time, he'd lost a little bit of that, and Dan Marino, being the aerial force that he was, took over control of the Dolphins to the point where he ran the show. And Marino never liked to run the ball. I'll tell you that I was his captain in 82 and 83, and then in 84, I was on injured reserve. But in 82 and 83, Marino, whether it was films from practice that we watch after practice or films from the game, you'd have special teams. We'd all watch that film roll, and then we'd split into two different rooms, defense in one and offense in the other. And then you split the run plays on one reel and then the pass plays on the other reel. So now you're here in the offensive film room, and you've got everybody in offense, the linemen and the backs. And during the passing reel, Marino would be very active. Wait, back that up. Okay, Nat Moore, don't break that off at 9, break it off at 11. Who else we got?
Clayton, Duper.
Yeah, Clayton. Okay, Clayton, do that Y at 13 yards. Run that back. Let me see that again. Okay, Mark, here's what you should have do. Next time, let's do this together. I'll hit that spot. I'll throw out the number, blah, 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 blah. Back and forth. Then Now the film reel is done, and you put on the run reel. Guess what number 13 does?
He fell asleep.
No. He gets up, sticks a newspaper under his arm, and goes and takes a shit for an hour. Doesn't even watch the run reel. So, do you understand now why the Dolphins couldn't run the ball?
The quarterback thought he just had to hand the ball, and he didn't want to do it.
Right. Yeah. He was more interested in touchdowns and passing yardage than wins. His winning. The other thing is, I have 151 wins and 51 losses, and that's the best Miami Dolphins record ever. Now, technical there. That's not the most wins ever. Dan Marino, who came in a 16-game season and played 17 seasons, whereas virtually all of my seasons were 14-game seasons. But Marino, I'm 151 and 51, 202 games. Marino has 2 more wins. He's 153 wins. Guess how many losses?
He probably has 150.
91. So he's 153 and 91, and I'm 151 and 51. So he's got 40 losses more and 2 wins. In fact, his winning percentage is not acceptable. I mean, that's in the low. He's in the 600s. That's unacceptable under Shula standards.
That's 9-7 every year.
Yeah, and it's so there you go.
And he was cheap too, because he bought his line in isotoner gloves, and Eric Dickerson bought his line Rolexes.
That's right.
I aggravated his lineman all the time. They go, yeah, we know. When you talk to Dwight Stevenson or Richmond Webb, they go, we know. We remind them.
Yeah.
The White House. I know you mentioned you don't like talking about.
If you take Marino's winning percentage, 59.4. That doesn't happen. I mean, that's not even playoff. That's a disgrace.
But he's an idol down there in Miami.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
I mean, who's bigger in Miami, him or Shula?
I don't know. That's a good question. Their names are both. I mean, it's. I think the stadium's on Shula Way, and
I mean, like you said, for a guy who only went to 1 Super Bowl, didn't win any, you think that Shula would just dwarf him with the amount of Super Bowls he won.
Yeah, but I was just talking earlier today. I mean, Coach Shula, God bless him. I was with him at the Miami Touchdown Club last Monday, 2 days ago. He's getting up there. You know, he's in a wheelchair,
right? And
you know, he's not out there promoting. And so soon, somebody was telling me that, you know, their 16-year-old child doesn't even know who Don Shula is. Yeah. And so time moves on.
I have
so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what. And I don't know that it matters. Dan Marino, and I consider him a friend now. I've gotten over until this interview. gotten over. I mean, I used to. It was common knowledge that of my feelings, and I didn't hold them back. And so Dan knew, and a lot of people knew that of my feelings. And but it is what it is. I mean, you're paid there to win. I'm paid to help do whatever I can do to help the team win. That's why I played every offensive line position. If we needed help against Harvey Martin, the great end from the Dallas Cowboys, then I would play left tackle. If we needed help against Randy White, I'd play left guard. If we needed help as a center, I'd play center. When our long snapper retired after the 73 season, we didn't, so I taught myself the long snap and became the long snapper in the Pro Bowls. Even though Jim Langer was our center, he was in the Pro Bowls, and Mike Webster of the Steelers, he was in the Pro Bowls. I was a better snapper than either one of them, and they said, "Hey, Cooch, you do this. You're the snapper." But I had, I played third base in baseball, so I had a gun for an arm.
I think it's safe to say you're you're the only NFL player to have ridden in a gunny sack on his father's back in a rodeo clown act.
I would think that's true. Yeah, I would think that's true.
What
now,
was
my brother Rudy, of course, played for the Bears and Packers, and I've already told you what Mike Ditka thinks of him, right?
Right.
Yes.
And so this is true. We're the only, Rudy and Bob Kuechenberg are the only two brothers in the history of the NFL whose father accused them of cowardice for choosing their profession. I mean, my father was a human cannonball, was a rodeo bullfighter, professional boxer, a red iron guy on the building, skyscrapers, and pound for pound, the toughest man I've ever known. So when he called Rudy and I and said, "You guys are pussies for playing in the NFL," all we could do was say, "You're right, Dad."
He wanted you guys to be human cannonballs?
Well, I don't know, something tougher than the NFL, I guess.
Lucky he didn't play professional football. He might have killed somebody.
Here's another. All right, cannonball, human cannonball. Back then, the cannon is on your far left, the net is on the far right. Not a big deal, except that in between those two locations are side-by-side Ferris wheels and a tilt-a-whirl. So you have to come out of the cannon. Of course, and the G's are so tremendous, you're really unconscious. You've got about 3 seconds to wake up, brush your teeth, shave, and get ready to land. So one time Dad landed, and they shoot once a day, every day, twice on Sunday. No, once a day, every day, twice on Saturday, and then had Sunday as moving day. Now, that doesn't make any sense. People go to a carnival on Saturday. So, yeah, twice on Sunday, and then Monday was a moving day. So Dad landed wrong, landed poorly in the net. And you're supposed to, when you come out of the cannon, I guess about when you're over the first Ferris wheel, you wake up and you say, "Oh, wait, don't panic, tuck and roll." Tuck and roll, just like diving off a high dive. You tuck and roll, cross your arms, tuck and roll. The worst thing you can do is grab, which is, of course, your instinct to grab at anything, grab. So Dad landed poorly, bounced out of the net, and broke his neck.
Wow.
Not to the point where he was paralyzed, but to the point where he didn't think he wanted to shoot the next day. So he turned to one of his 6 brothers. My dad's name was Rudolph, and there was Vilmer, Adelbert, Robert, and Alfred. And Dad was the older brother, so he was the boss, toughest guy of them anyway. And he turned and said, "Eeny, meeny, miny. Alfred, you're in." "Rudolph, why me? Why me? Why not Adelbert? Why not Vilmer?" "You're in, Alfred." Well, Alfred almost but not quite cleared the last Ferris wheel.
Ooh.
He landed in the top booth. Which fortunately was top seat, which fortunately was empty. And then he fell from that down to like a couple of them below that, and then below that, and below that. And then when he got to the ground, my dad was there to catch him. So he lived. He lived, you want to call it a normal life. They basically took about 2/3 of his ass and put it on his face to replace his missing. He cut his face off from the nose down.
Ooh.
And so his ass functioned okay on his face, but put new meaning in the word ass face.